7. Okay, the first slide. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So first we'll see the different types of blades in centrifugal rotors. Centrifugal turbomachinery rotors. The blades can be backward curved, radial tipped, forward curved. Okay. Most of the sketches where the blades were indicated so far were backward curved, and that is the most common in pumps. It is the most efficient also. So for this backward curved vanes, well, I have shown, partial impeller with a blade. So the velocity triangles are indicated. The speed of rotation will have to be shown. And for this configuration, the blade angle beta 2 will be less than 90 degrees. Okay, that is the condition. Then, as I had mentioned earlier, after drawing the blade, you have to show the direction of rotation. So if I change the direction of rotation from this clockwise to anti-clockwise, the blade will become forward curved. Okay, so direction of rotation you should indicate without fail. The next one, you can see the radial tipped and forward curved blades. See, radial tipped blades where the angle beta 2 is 90 degrees. So this is used mostly in centrifugal compressors, that too aircraft compressors. So where the tip speeds U2 will be very, very high. So when you think of speeds, you may not have much idea about the speeds used, though you should get used to it. Okay, speed something like 300, 350 meters per second are used. Okay, very high speeds, because you know that for this impellers, the energy transfer, the specific head depends on U2 and then that angle CU2. I'm sorry, the component of C2 in the tangential direction or whirl component. So higher U2, the amount of work done or work transfer is more. So for a given thing, when the work transfer is more, it is better. The size can be reduced. So finally, the overall weight has to be reduced. You should never forget that the gas turbines are used in aircraft application because they have the highest power to weight ratio, the highest one. Okay, so such cases, they go for beta 2 equal to 90 degrees. You may ask in what way it helps. Like, when the impeller rotates at very high speeds, the major stress is produced by the centrifugal forces. So when the blade tips, they are also in the radial direction. They are oriented in the best manner. If they are slightly in another direction, additional centrifugal forces, and you will have, bending stresses and all those things on the blade. Okay, so this configuration gives the strongest blade configuration. Now, the next one is the forward curved one. Okay, so here not used in big machines. It's for small size, common for small fans. Advantages: the size is very small, but it is less efficient. You will find this type of fans in AC condenser or such applications. You can see some sort of rotors called squirrel gauge rotors. So they will have many number of this forward curved blades, and the angle beta 2 is more than 90 degrees. Okay. Then the blades can be straight instead of curved. Easy to design and make. Okay, and They are usually called, backward leaning, forward leaning, or radial blades. Okay, see the configurations. The first one, where beta 2 is less than 90, that is backward leaning. Then the next one, that is forward leaning, where beta 2 is greater than 90 degrees. And the last one is purely radial blade, and beta 2 is 90 degrees. Now, it's not a good configuration in the sense it won't be efficient. There will be a lot of problems, but for small duties, it is all right. Next, another important, idea about turbo machinery. Okay, the incidence and deviation in centrifugal impellers. Incidence and deviations of the flow velocity. Okay, so we have taken a backward curved blade. You can see the impeller. As usual, velocity triangles are drawn at location 1 and 2, the entry to the blade and the exit to the blade. The speed of rotation is indicated. Now, if you see the inlet, okay, see I have drawn a green line tangential to the blade tip at entry here at 1, the blade tangent at 1. Okay, but you find that the relative velocity is not in that direction. It is inclined to that direction, and the angle between relative velocity and the blade tangent, that is the angle of incidence. Okay, and C1 is the flow direction. As I had mentioned, in the absence of any pre-rotating device, the velocity C1 will be in the radial direction only. Okay, so then U is there. So given a rotor, its diameter is known at entry. So pi d n by 60, that is U1. That is in the tangential direction. So these two are connected by the relative velocity W1. You find that the direction of relative velocity is not along the tangent to the blade at the tip 1. Okay, there's a difference. The difference is incidence angle. Now, incidence angle leads to shock at entry. Okay, this shock is not the usual fluid dynamic shock you study in compressible fluid flow. This is incidence. Shock means at this point the relative velocity is inclined, and after 1, it has to suddenly change the direction. So suddenness in direction of the flow, a sudden change in the direction of the flow, that is a shock mentioned here. So any such sudden things in the fluid flow will lead to losses, energy losses, hydraulic losses. In fluid mechanics, you would have studied about the loss in sudden expansion in the flow pipe. If the cross section suddenly changes, you have some loss, hydraulic loss. That's called the loss for sudden expansion. So here also there is a loss. Then if you look at 2, the velocity triangle is drawn. Now the tangent, the blade tangent at 2 is also indicated. Blade tangent. You find that W2 is not along the blade tangent. And the difference between these two, or the angle between the blade tangent and the direction of W2, that is called the deviation. It's called the slip phenomena. So the fluid, the relative flow, instead of moving along the tangent, it slips backwards. Okay, some sort of inertia, it is unwilling to take that path. That is the path indicated by the tangent, but it slips back. Now you get the velocity triangle. Now I may say that slip leads to reduced work transfer. Is it obvious? Anybody?
Sir, is it like the water is bouncing off?
It is?
Increase if rotation angle will increase.
No. See, for a particular impeller, that is the diameter is known, speed is known, U2 is known. So at this point 2, U2 in magnitude and direction is known. So, and when we think of analysis, we fix the discharge also for a given discharge for a given speed. For a given discharge, the flow velocity is also fixed. That means from point 2, U2 has to be drawn at a distance of the CF2, the flow velocity. So I can take U2 in the forward direction, the whole vector, or in the backward direction and complete the velocity triangle. Usually what we do is we take W2 in the direction of the blade tangent. From there we will take U2. So if I had taken like that, I will get a velocity triangle. So there the value of C2 will be more. So correspondingly the CU2 component, the world component of C2 also will be more. That is how in this case when there's a reduction, that is when W2 is slipping back, it leads to a deduction in the CU2 component. It should be clear when we see the next one. Okay. See, based on slip, we define something called the slip coefficient, and you can now see what happens at the exit at point 2. I've drawn 2 triangles, velocity triangles. One is the red one, the other one is the green one. Can you see, or can you tell me which one is drawn without slip, the red one or the green one?
Red one.
The red one is drawn without slip. Okay, and I will prefer to call this the geometrical velocity triangle, because it is based on the blade geometry. The tangent to the blade is drawn. From that, I mark a distance CF2 in the radial direction. Then from the tangential direction, I draw that U2 value, which is given by pi d to n by 60. But the existence of slip, it could be based on thought process. More than that, people have measured the velocity direction. Now, can you tell me which velocity direction people would have measured? C2. See, the absolute velocity only they will measure. That is, after the impeller, in that portion, you may have to drill a hole, insert a probe. You have to see that no leakage is there. You can measure the direction. So it is from direction measurement and all those things, people have found that it is not the so-called direction indicated by the geometric velocity triangle, but the green one, which is the actual exit velocity triangle. So there you have W2 dash and C2 dash. I have given the dash notation. So W2 dash is the relative velocity in the actual case. C2 dash is the actual velocity in the actual case. So here also, W2 dash, then the U2 value is the same, because U2 is always known. Given an impeller, given the speed of rotation, U2 is pi d to n by 60. You can always calculate. So that is fixed here, and the velocity triangle is made. Then there are various explanations for this slip. Basically inertia, slightly it will fall back. See, you have one blade, the next blade is not so close after some distance only. So in between, people say that there is no proper guidance. So if slip should not be there, one is you can have more number of blades. Okay, guidance will be proper, slip will be less. Is it all right? See, when you have more number of blades, slip will be less. Is that idea all right? Anybody?
No, sir. Can you explain that how it happens?
See, first thing is the existence of the two velocity triangles. Okay, what is the red one called?
The geometrical.
Why it is called geometrical?
Because it is W2 is tangential to blade.
Yes,
It is
because
going to
blade is
geometry.
a known thing you have designed or you have fabricated. So tangential to that, you know how to draw because beta 2 will be given. Okay, then I said for a particular situation, the speed is fixed, diameter is known, so u2 is known. Then what else you will fix?
So C2.
Not c2. The flow rate is fixed. So once flow rate is known, CF2 is flow Q divided by that area. The flow area is pi d, the circumference, multiplied by the width of the impeller at exit, the opening width. Okay, a circular area, you will get. So Q divided by pi d2 b2, small b2, that is the one which you use, that will give us CF2. So always this is drawn for a particular speed for a particular discharge. So U2 is known, CF2 is known. Now for geometrical velocity triangle, I will fix the direction beta 2 tangent to the blade, complete it. But the idea is the C2 you get in this does not match with the C2 people get, by measurement, the direction of it. So the idea of slip is developed. So the relative velocity, it slips back in the direction opposite to that of rotation. So that is reasonable because normally when inertial effect is there, it will try to fall back only. Okay, now the issue I raised is this slip, if you want to reduce, if you go for more number of blades, is it a positive step? Okay, it's a good step. See, normally centrifugal pumps, 4 to 5 blades, 6 blades will be there, not many. Suppose if I put 20 blades, if I put 20 blades, I'm sure our people have measured that the slip is less. That means the green triangle, velocity triangle, will move towards the direction of U2 and try to be with the geometrical triangle. Okay, now I have put more blades. More blades will cause a lot of problems. Okay, one of the problems is blades will have some thickness. Okay, so more blades means then they will block the flow. The area through which the fluid takes place will not be exactly that pi d2 b2. Usually we multiply it by a factor. So this factor will become smaller and smaller so that the flow area gets reduced. Then construction and all those things, weight will be more. So usually to say that there is no slip, one interesting idea they say, that is, think of infinite number of infinitesimally thin blades. Okay, I'll repeat. Think of infinite number of infinitesimally thin blades. If that is there, then there won't be any slip. Do you understand this point? Do you get that point? Infinite
Yes, sir.
number of infinitesimally thin blades, okay, so that they don't block and all those things. So finally you get like this. Now one should definitely have some idea about the so-called slip coefficient, which is defined as Cu2 dash by Cu2. So that means the actual divided by the geometrical value. Okay, so these notations will differ. Some authors may say it is Cu2 by Cu2 dash. By Cu2 dash, they will mean the geometrical one. Okay, basic idea is, this mu value will be less than 1. So it is, the actual divided by the geometric. Okay, now another interesting idea, the shutoff head or the minimum starting speed. Okay, so if you have a centrifugal pump, okay, it is sucking water from some sump, the water level is indicated, and a very long delivery pipe is indicated. Okay, now when I run the pump at 100 revolutions per minute, it will have some head. When I run it at 200 revolutions per minute, it will have more head. If I run it at 300 revolutions per minute, the head is more. So I can graphically plot this so-called head versus the speed. Now one thing is, it is the head at which there is no flow. Only head is there, no flow. As if, it is shut off. So instead of, taking a long pipe, if I put a valve just at the exit, the same head will be there. For 300 revolutions per minute, I will get so much head indicated in the figure. So this head may be called shut-off head. That is how the terminology comes. When I put a valve here and close it and run it at these speeds, the heads developed is a shut-off head. Then what is this idea of minimum starting speed? Now, to produce this head, the impeller rotates at a particular speed. Okay, so suppose my particular situation has a head indicated, in that 300 revolutions per minute. So in that situation, if I want some discharge, the minimum starting speed will be 300 revolutions per minute. Okay, so that is how these two are related, shut-off head and minimum starting speed. So as the speed is increased, this shut-off head will also increase. Now we should have some idea about it, so people derive the expressions for that. There are a few derivations, and people also experimentally determine what is this value. Okay. Now you see the first equation, H naught equal to 1 by G into U2 square minus U1 square by 2. Okay. So this you can get from the Euler equation, GHE Euler equation. See, Euler equation we initially indicated by the simple thing, that is Euler equation or specific work is equal to delta UCU. Okay, that is the equation we always mention, and delta UCU is U2 CU2 minus U1 CU1. Now in the second or third class, I think we derived this expression, that is specific work expressed in as 3 different effects. Do you remember? Anybody? What are the three effects called? Specific work expressed in three different effects as a sum of three different effects.
Centrifugal effect, diffusion effect.
So
Which one is
the
go ahead.
head. So
This
addition
equation,
of head,
first
addition of
one,
the mass.
first one is
Change in specific
Centrifugal.
Addition of
change in
Change in specific kinetic energy.
head.
kinetic energy. Specific,
Kinetic
exactly,
energy.
specific kinetic energy. Second one,
centrifugal effect.
centrifugal effect because of rotation. Third one,
Diffusion.
diffusion. Three effects. Now, from this equation, how do I get H naught equal to 1 by G U2 square minus U1 square by 2? What should I have assumed? You can think and tell me.
The fluid is not accelerated and there is no world component.
Fluid is not accelerating or fluid is not flowing at all.
Not flowing, sorry. Not flowing.
Okay, so that means fluid velocities, okay, with relative or active or real velocities, they are all, when they are not flowing, what is the fluid velocity? It is 0. So first term will be 0, last term will be 0. What you get is U2 square minus U1 square by 2. Simple, people should understand that. Okay, you have the Euler equation where the specific work is expressed in three effects, sum of three effects. The first one and last one will be 0 for this shut-off head situation because there is no flow at all. So you have only U2 square minus U1 square by 2. This you can get from the idea of the free vortex, not free vortex, forced vortex. Forced vortex. You take fluid in a container and you rotate. You might have studied in your fluid mechanics class. Under fluid statics, usually this is discussed. Fluids under relative equilibrium. Anybody at least remembers something like that being taught in the class earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Like a
Good.
container is rotated with an axis.
Yes, actually this is rotation. Along with this, initially for linear acceleration, that also will be discussed. Where in the case of liquids, the free surface will not be horizontal, it will become inclined. Okay, so fluids under relative equilibrium it is called. Okay, so this particular equation you can get from that forced vortex situation. So only thing is it is not U2 square by 2 but U2 square minus U1 square by 2. This is assuming that at the entry region, see the hole through which water enters, it's called the eye of the impeller. Okay, the eye and the initial inside, that is within the diameter d1, the fluid is not actually rotating. Okay, so actual vortex is between points 1 and 2, that region. So that is how you get this equation. Now the other equation is H naught is equal to U2 square by 2G. This shut-off head will be higher than this because here it is U2 square by 2G minus U1 square by 2G. So this also people give an explanation. When the impeller is rotating, though there is no flow coming out of the discharge pipe, inside in the impeller there will be a circulatory flow. So between the impeller and casing there will be a flow, and in the suction pipe itself, a few diameters ahead of the impeller pump, there will be some sort of circulatory flow. And finally, it is something like a free vortex in the entire, there is free vortex in the eye, but afterwards the forced vortex. So general forced vortex equation is will give you H naught equal to U2 square by 2G. Okay. In fact, it is some work is being done. So I may not be perfectly right in calling it free vortex. Some amount of torque is given. So the vortex flow, the see the basic definition of vortex flow is any flow where there is a tangential component of velocity. Okay, maybe you can just note that any vortex flow will have a tangential component of velocity. So you may have a free vortex, you may have a forced vortex, you may have spiral vortex, you may have helical vortex, or you may have spirohelical vortex. Okay, so you can think of 5 different types of vortex flows. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail, but you see this. Suppose think of helical vortex. What happens is in an axial flow machine, though we say the flow is parallel to the axis, there will be always a tangential component. So axial component plus tangential component, so that the particles might move along a helix as they move from inlet to exit. Similarly, in a centrifugal pump, we say the fluid is flowing out radially, it has a radial velocity, but we all know that it has tangential velocity from entry to exit. So when you have a radial component and a tangential component, what should be the path of flow? Anybody? No idea?
Spiral.
It is spiral. Good. So it is spiral. So that is why, see, in centrifugal machines it is spiral, axial machine it may be helical. Now you can combine these two. In axial machine also they say there will be a slight radial movement. So axial, radial and tangential all put together, you can think of an expanding helix, and some name you have to give. You can give the name spirohelical flow. Okay, very lengthy name. So this is how they get H naught. There are 2 equations. Then finally everything is settled by experiments. Okay, so H naught equal to K naught into U2 square by 2G, where this K naught has been found between 0.85 to 1.24. Okay, so certain calculations one can use this idea and find out the shutoff head. And any doubt in this, especially the idea of slip and all those things?
Sir, I have a doubt in slip, sir. So,
Tell me.
how does increasing number of blades essentially reduce slip? I understand the triangles part, sir, but then how does?
Suppose I have another blade very close to this. Okay, the flow comes with respect to that. It will just go out. So one thing is, people have conducted experiments and they have found, okay, when you increase the number of blades, the slip becomes less. Okay.
Okay.
So now what you see and what is our understanding, they have to be connected.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the idea is when they are very close, it will just go out in that direction. It may not have, the reason, they say inside there will be a circulation. When it rotates in the clockwise direction, books will indicate one anti-clockwise vortex here. Okay, and the size of that, based on that, how much slip will be there, they calculate. Okay, so how you get a vortex here? They are maybe difficult to see, but maybe we may be able to think of that. Okay. Any other doubt?
Sir, could you once again just tell out what is shut off head once again? I wasn't able to understand.
See, suppose I have a centrifugal pump. Okay, I have put it in some place. Okay, the water level is there, the suction pipe is there, and the pump is not initially started. Okay, what is the head developed?
There's no head there.
No head, zero. Now I increase the speed. What will happen?
Some head is developed.
Provided it is, the pump is primed. Don't forget that.
Yes, sir.